Okay. Hello! It is the spooky season, as you can tell from my skeleton shirt. So anyways, I wanted to make something easy and cute for Halloween, even though I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. A couple years ago, I made this girl. I love her a lot. She was a fun new experiment in learning to felt mushrooms. I don't want to do anything where I have to learn anything new this time. Okay, so the Halloween Haunt Barbie has this cute kind of shirt-waist dress on the top, and then the bottom is I don't know, it's kind of a floofy skirt, and it's split in the middle, and then she's wearing these cute little pedal pusher pants underneath. It looks like a cute, fun project that can like use up some of my stash and hopefully won't take more than a couple of days. For the actual dress itself, I've got this orange satin that's been in my stash for years, and I've wanted to use it on something Halloween-y. I used it on this dress as well. It's the undermost layer for this skirt, and then I think the binding is also made of it. I don't have as much fabric as the pattern wants me to have, so we're going to be making it a little bit shorter. And then I've got this cute ribbon that I found in my stash that I'm going to use for the hat. So I have this black velvet that has been dying to be used up, and then I'll be using my Cricut and some glitter vinyl to cut out all the little cute like stars and cats and stuff. Cool, so here we go. Alright, so this is the pattern I'm going to be using, the Butterick B6018. So instead of making the seam right under the bust, I'm going to like splice these pattern pieces together and make the seam at the waist, since that's where this seam is on the dress. And then instead of making it like a T-length dress, I'm gonna bring it up to about here, and hopefully that should cut off like a good foot of what I need, because I have maybe 2 yards of this fabric and this pattern calls for like 3.5, which that's just not gonna happen. Alright, so before I start every project with a commercial pattern, I don't really trust commercial patterns ease. They usually tend to add a lot more ease than is necessary. So I've already checked the bust measurement, and the bust measurement for the 14 is correct. Is right for my size. It's a 36. They suggest a 36 bust. I have a 36.5, 37 bust, and with the ease, this ends up being about 38.5, and that's a pretty good amount for a 37-inch bust. For the waist, I've measured each one, so basically you just want to find the waistline, and if it's not marked on the pattern, it's wherever it dips in the most, that should be the waistline. And you're going to want to take off the 5/8 of an inch of seam allowance before you do your measuring. So that's the 5/8 mark there, and then there's another 5/8 mark there, and you'll just measure the amount of space in between of that. So that ends up being 2 3/4 for this pattern piece. Once you do that for all of your pattern pieces, then you add it all together, is 14 inches, give or take 1/8 of an inch. 14 inches doubled is 28 inches, and so that ends up being for a size 10. They say they recommend it for a size 25-inch waist, but as you can see, there's an extra 3 inches of ease added, which probably is not what you want in your waist measure or your waist band, because that's pretty big for especially how people expect their clothes to fit now. We really expect clothing to be pretty tight on the waist, but that's why I recommend whenever you're using a commercial pattern, if you know your measurements pretty well, I would just check them against it and make sure that what you're making is actually going to fit, and you can kind of skip through the mock-up process if you do this. I don't really want to like hack apart my pattern with the tissue paper, just because like then I can't use it again. So if you want to alter patterns, it's a really good idea to just trace it off so you can use it again. And then when you mark things with this wheel, let's see, is it gonna focus? Yeah, there we go. So you see it's like really spiky, so if I just went along it and marked the whole line out like this, I would perforate my entire pattern, which would then make it fall apart. So instead, I'm just doing little indentations every couple inches, and then once I pull the paper off and it's all done, I should be able to then connect them all with a ruler and just draw a straight line. notches and mark the waistline as well. So normally I would mark the grain line, but I believe, oh no, the grain line is not parallel, so I will mark the grain line. The first pattern piece, and then this was the hem that was marked on the pattern, so I'm just going to raise that 3 inches. And it gives you a 2-inch hem to work with. I don't know. I might just get rid of that and do a rolled horsehair hem, but we'll see. So basically, what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to match up the pieces as they go along to here, and match those up to each section, and then chop it off at the waist, and then I'm going to grade it so that it ends up being the correct width at the waist and at the bust. So right now I'm just going to chop off the waist. So theoretically, this should match up to here. That doesn't look like it does though. So this has seam allowance on it. So that's what I'm missing. So I'm going to take this seam allowance off. See if that fits. Still no. Okay, so that's because this is supposed to be on the fold, I think. So let's take this whole thing off. Great, there we go. So basically what I'm doing here is, because the skirt pieces get seamed together, but the bodice piece is cut on the fold, this had an extra seam allowance that this would not have. This also has seam allowance on this side, but there's a dart here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take off the seam allowance for this whole piece, at least the whole piece. Let's just take the whole thing off. So that should be, I should be taking 5/8 off the two sides and the top, and then on this side I'll take 5/8 off of the bottom where these two would seam up. So once I do that, yeah, that fits pretty well. It's a little bit off, but that's okay, we'll fix it. So I'm just going to take this right onto here, and that does mean that I'm going to have to add a 5/8 seam allowance both to the bottom of this piece and the top of the piece that I just cut this off of. Okay, and then we'll do the same on this side. So we're going to erase or cut off 5/8 on where, cut off 5/8 where the side back skirt piece would attach. Cut off the 5/8 on the top of that piece. I don't know what that piece is, but sure. and then cut off the same 5/8 seam allowance at the side back seam since there's a dart there, but the 5/8 on this side can stay. I think for some reason that looks, nope, that looks okay actually. So because the bodice also joins up at the side seam, it already has the 5/8 seam allowance, unlike in the center back where it's on the fold. So we don't need to chop off the seam allowance on the skirt piece. Okay, and that looks about right. It's not perfect, but the whole thing's gonna get kind of like chopped up anyways, since we're gonna be pulling that in to match the waist, and I think that should be okay. So let's add the 5/8 seam allowance back to this bottom, since this will be getting seamed. Okay, so there's that seam allowance, and that might not end up matching up, so we're gonna have to also match that. That's going to the waist, and this is also going to the waist. Okay, see, that actually works out pretty well. And then let's measure, that's 6 3/4, and this is not quite 6 3/4, so we're just going to add that little piece there so those dart legs match up. And then I'm just going to cut this whole dart out because it makes it a lot easier to mark. And then one way to just check without actually measuring to see if it matches up, you can cut one side out and then slide it over like that. And you smooth it out like that. Cool. So on the pattern, like the commercial pattern, when I lined up the arm's eyes, they're meeting in this weird point. That's not how an arm's eye should look. Your arm's eye should be smooth across the bottom and like an uninterrupted line. So I just marked that so that I can later chop that off. Okay, so today is day 2 of Halloween Barbie. Two. Today is day 2 of Halloween Barbie. So I was thinking about it last night as I was falling asleep, and the pattern I have is really fitted in the waist, and I took another look at Barbie, and she has kind of a gathered waist skirt. The skirt is a little bit gathered in the waist. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just gonna slash and spread these a little bit. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw some long lines from top to bottom, and then I chop them apart like this. Chop them apart like this, and then I can just spread them out a little bit, and that'll add a little bit of volume just to the top here, and it'll keep the hem the same width, and it's a good way to do it really evenly and pretty simply. Hopefully today we will get to cutting out and sewing.
Full stop. Can't believe I live in your thoughts. I think about you all the time, morning, evening, and midnight. Such a wonderful delight. Forgo, give up everything that
I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with the seam finish, because you can see it's like a pretty shiny satin, polyester satin, whatever, and that means it's probably gonna fray a lot, and because it's a commercial pattern for like home stars pattern, it didn't really come instructions with a lining, or for a lining. I don't really have enough fabric to do a lining. I don't really care to do a lining, but instead that means that I need to find some way to finish these seams, and I could just serge it all, which would be fine, but I was thinking it might be super cute to make a binding for the seams out of one of these two fabrics, and then it can match the spooky outside with the spooky inside. So I'm gonna think about which one I want I think this one matches the actual costume more, because the whole outside is like pumpkins and cats and scary cats. But this one, the print is smaller, so I think it'll be more visible if it's made into a binding tape. I'm gonna check it out and I will get working on that.
Using 1.5 inch strips of binding fabric, I stitched the seam allowance and binding right sides together with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. This gets pressed open and trimmed so that the binding can then wrap around the raw edge of the seam allowance and get stitched in the ditch.
Hello, are you sewing? Are you sewing, cat? Where are you going? Where are you going? Oh, what's up, baby? Okay, so I've gotten the binding on all of the seams, right sides together, like that kind of, and then it folds over and then it folds under. So you can see, oh, please focus. Okay, there we go. You can see the raw edge there, and I'm gonna trim that down so it doesn't like interfere with how this seam lays. But I think it looks super cute. It took forever, and I'm not really even done yet. Once I get more of this sewn together, I'm gonna have to do more of these seams. These seams have to be encased before they get stitched up here, or like on the bodice. This is the arm's eye here, and so this is the princess seam that's going up into the shoulder seam. And I had to finish this before I could do the shoulder seam because like this will then be inaccessible. So I wouldn't have been able to finish that cleanly. I think I'm just gonna get trimming done tonight. It's getting kind of late and I want to relax and watch some TV. So the rest of this will happen tomorrow. Hey, baby. Meow. Where are you going? Meow. Are you hungry? Is that why you're meowing at me? Meow. Meow. Is it food time? Meow. Meow. Hello. Are you done?
To prep the collar, I interfaced the velvet with a medium weight muslin. These pieces get basted together by machine so they can function as one layer. Once sewn into the garment, the edge is bound. I prep the skirt for gathering by machine with a wide basting stitch in the waist seam allowance. This is then gathered by hand by gently pulling the bobbin side threads.
Hello. Are you a good helper? Are you a good helper?
Yes, she is.
I have gotten the whole bodice and the skirt attached. I've also put a waist stay, kind of a waist ribbon in there, and that's not really to function the same way that a waist stay and like a corset does, where it like keeps everything in. It's more to make sure that all of this is covered up, so I'll be tacking that to the seam allowances everywhere. I've gotten all of the seams bound except for the one that the zipper is going into. What I'm going to do next is baste this zipper in so that it doesn't shift around when I'm trying to stitch it in on my machine. And then I'll bind that seam as well. I'll be binding this seam which goes into the arm's eye, so if I had done the sleeve first then I wouldn't have been able to bind this as cleanly. So sleeve is going on after I bind this, and then once the sleeves are on, then it's just binding the sleeves and then putting up the hem. So I've got the main body of the dress all stitched together. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, actually. I kind of like hacked apart this pattern to get to where it is now. It had a dart here and a dart here rather than a long princess seam, and the back I also turned into princess seams instead of 2 darts. So basically all that's left for actual sewing is to finish the cuffs and the hem. I wanted to see where the hem sits though before I definitely put it up permanently. What? I'm talking to myself, leave me alone.
Just didn't want to interrupt.
But I'm gonna put in about a 3/4 hem, since I'll be doing it with horsehair braid, and I think that that'll sit right below my knee, so that'll be a really good length. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I think it's super cute. And then I get to do the fun part after it's all finished sewing, which is make a lot of glittery cricut shapes and slap those right on there.
To make the cricut designs, I primarily use Procreate on my iPad. I first import the reference image and make it the base layer with a second layer on top to draw on. Here I'm choosing a color to trace in. Try to choose a color that isn't found in the reference image so it's easier to see. I then zoom way in and just trace around the image, then fill it with the same color. I make some adjustments to compensate for flatness of the design wrapped around the 3D object. Save and export as a PNG so the background stays transparent, then it's ready for the Cricut design space. Cricut design space is pretty simple to use, so I won't go into it, but after it's cut you'll need to weed out the extra vinyl. Lay out the vinyl onto the fabric and cover with a press cloth. The plastic sheeting is a bit sticky to help prevent shifting. Press the iron down onto the fabric for 10 to 20 seconds. You may need extra pressure to work the glue into the fabric. I then slowly peel the plastic backing off. Sometimes it pulls the vinyl up with it, but that's okay, just press that part again. I always press the design one more time once the plastic is removed. Repeat this process for the whole skirt. This ended up taking me 4 hours. The last detail for this dress is buttons. And with that, we're finally done with the dress.
So I'm starting on the hat now. I made this pattern. All you do for the brim is you measure around your head the circumference. So mine is about 22 1/4, and you want to figure out how to make a circle that is that, like, so this will fit over top of my head, and then figure out how wide you want the brim to be, and then just add that all the way around. Fairly straightforward. For the cone part of the hat, from this point of the triangle down the leg is how tall you want the hat to be, and then from the curve on the curved part, that should be equal to the circumference, so that when you make it into a cone, it will fit into this circle here. So I have my structure pretty much done. It is not beautiful, but it will work. To be honest, my machine is not heavy duty enough to do this wiring. So it's like really janky looking, but it'll all be hidden by the velvet. So, you know, if your frame looks structurally nice, it really doesn't matter if your stitching is nice. This is the top part of the witch hat. It's not stitched yet. I'm gonna have to do that by hand because, you know, I can't really get the machine up into here. It's coming along. All the machine parts are done. Everything else will be done by hand with this. So I've got my lining. I've got this like cute paisley. And then for hat linings, you want it to be pretty stiff so that like it will hold itself up, and so it doesn't like fall down out of the hat. So like if you've got a really like flimsy lining, that would be really nice for like a dress. That's probably not so great for a hat. What? Oh, are you okay? Are you lonely?
Times will come again when the wind is blowing in my direction. Still I can't ignore the pain. It's the only thing that tells me I'm breathing. I lost you from the start. Someone said your heart is...
Okay, thoughts on this whole project. I think it's super cute, and honestly, like my motivation has kind of just tanked the past few months because I was done with school, and then the pandemic happened right when I was about to finish school, and cons were canceled. I couldn't see anybody, and I just kind of like didn't feel like doing anything. So this was a nice kind of short project that helped me feel really accomplished, and I'm really glad that I did it. I think that it did what it was supposed to do. I'm now motivated to do more things, so that's cool. Yeah, I'm really like extra pleased with these seams. They're probably my favorite part because, like, I don't know, you wouldn't expect a costume like this to have nicely finished seams, yet here they are, and they probably took the longest time of anything on this whole project. And then the rest of it went together pretty quickly. Like, altering the pattern also took a little while, just because I was altering it so much. If you start with a pattern that looks more like your actual finished product, you won't have to do as much. So do that instead. Would it have been faster to drape it myself? Maybe. But that's too much effort. Anyways, my cat is down here sleeping. I don't know if I can. We're gonna go for a field trip over here. This is my baby. She's been sitting here while I take photos, and it looks like she's just a dead little cat in my photos, but she's really just a sleepy cat. Against white fabric, she's very hard to see on camera. But there she is. She's a little sleepy baby. Cool. Well, thanks for coming along with me on this ride. This is my first sewing video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it was helpful. And if you liked it, I'm planning on doing more sewing videos, but we'll see how my plans work out. I have all intentions of making more sewing videos, so if you liked this video and you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel and please stick around. Comment if you want to see anything specific, if you thought I talked too much, if you liked how much I talked with all the instructions. Just let me know. Let's make friends, since none of us can leave our houses. Let's be internet friends. Hey, sleepy baby. Hey. Hey. I'm gonna be a mean mommy and wake you up. Look at you. You're so cute. You're so cute. Are you sleepy? Am I disturbing your slumber? Here you go. Here you go, baby. There you go. You're so sweet. Are you just going to sleep? Oh, no, you went down? Okay, baby. Oh, you're so sweet. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.